So this is the first time I experienced this state where I just felt like, I woke up from a dream for a moment. My 33 years of my life from that level seemed like a couple of minutes, couple of hours maybe. It was such a powerful high state of consciousness. I was experiencing myself, it's very difficult to describe, but multi-dimensional version of me with the same characteristics, same kind of features, a little bit, eyes, things like that, but just 100 times more advanced version of me. This is Sygula from TruthTheory.com, and welcome to another episode of True Spirituality. This is my series on metaphysics, esotericism, mysticism, and spirituality. And if you're new here, please subscribe because this is already episode 21. So if you are someone who likes topics such as spirituality, metaphysics, consciousness, karma, reincarnation, psychedelics, meditation, law of one, hermetic teachings, anything in between, this series is for you. And check out previous episodes as well, because this is already episode 21. So today I want to talk about something very personal and perhaps one of the most important experiences of my life, definitely in top 5, and very deep, very advanced concept, very difficult to explain because of limitations of language and it's kind of an individual experience. But I'll do my best to explain what I experienced. And one more thing before we're gonna start, I just want to say that thank you to everyone on Patreon for supporting us, because we cannot create content without your help. So if you are not yet on Patreon, please go to patreon.com/TruthTheory, become a supporter there, and you can always send me messages there directly. Sometimes I'm creating exclusive content for you guys from people who send me suggestions. So, we can interact on Patreon. You can send me some questions, suggestions for content, things like that. And thanks to your help, I'm able to create more content. So thank you. Check out patreon.com/TruthTheory. And now let's talk about the topic. So higher self is one of the most important concepts in metaphysics. And I would suggest to check out my previous video on higher self before you're gonna watch this one, to get kind of more understanding of what higher self really is. This video I'm talking about is True Spirituality, episode 15, titled "This is the best way to understand who your higher self is." So first check out the previous video, probably the best to start before watching this one. So, very quickly to summarize some of the things that I talked about in the previous video, you are an aspect of your higher self, right? Think about what happens when you are having a dream. There is reality there, you have your avatar, you in a way project a part of your mind or consciousness into that dream as you. There is a version of you in the dream world that is limited, that has different perception of time. Visual aspects are distorted in comparison to awake life, right? And it's like a mini world that you are experiencing, right? And unless you have a lucid dream where you are aware of the fact that you are dreaming, you don't even know that you are dreaming, right? You have this version of reality that, you can interact, do whatever you like, but you only know you were dreaming when you wake up. It was just a dream, just a few hours, whatever long. Time was very distorted during the dream. You didn't even know how long it was lasting because the consciousness is at different level. So everything is different, right? Now, what higher self is a level up. So you have higher self projecting itself into this reality as you, as your life, and now you project yourself into a dream level down in the same way. So this is in a nutshell how you can understand higher self. Some people would call higher self a superconscious mind or subconscious mind. This is where intuition comes from, right? And what's really interesting is that higher self is explained in all sorts of different religions, different philosophies, different belief systems in their own obviously ways, because everyone who was coming up with these concepts or trying to understand them in the period and region where they were created had their own lens, their own bias, their own way of understanding things. So the same concept actually is explained by different faiths in their own ways. So for example, a lot of people claim that the Holy Spirit in Christianity is actually higher self, and it kind of makes sense. Some call higher self an oversoul. So for example, in the Law of One, Ra refers to higher self in this way: you are existing at all levels simultaneously. It is specifically correct that your higher self is you in the mid-sixth density, and in your way of measuring what you know of as time, your higher self is yourself in the future. Like I mentioned in previous video, we have this progression of events, illusion of time, but on the high level there's just one consciousness, and it kind of projects itself into different versions, you know? This is what I was mentioning in a previous video to explain a little bit better. So for example, people like Madame Blavatsky also talked about higher self, and she referred to higher self as Atman, which is a term used in Hinduism and Indian faiths. And once you start looking into it, you learn that actually higher self was known to all major religions, to all major belief systems throughout the history. So it's nothing new. We are just trying to explain it in a modern language, let's say. So as I mentioned in the previous video, what happens is that your higher self sometimes can appear as an older version of you, for example, because it has to create some kind of interface, right? So you can interact with your higher self. And I had my experiences with my higher self who was appearing as an old version of me, me in my 50s or something. And that was confirmed through, for example, my ex-partner, who is very psychic, so she was interacting with him. But that's a whole different story. This is a thing for another video. What I want to share with you is actually when I saw reality from the level of my higher self. So you can interact here on this level with your higher self as a separate being, but actually in reality is you. It's only you. Think about like when you have a dream, right? You have separate people in your dream, but actually the whole dream is happening in your mind, right? So these separate people are not really separate because they are you. They are part of your dream. They're part of your reality. So that's why from this level, my higher self can appear as a separate entity to help me to interact with him. But actually, it's just me. The whole reality is you. It's just one being at the highest level. So, this is difficult to understand. Let's get into what happened. So in 2015, I decided to go to Czech Republic for a trip with my cousin in the summer around the solstice, 20th of June, something around this date. And initially I went to see a friend of mine in Prague. We were driving there, and then the second part of the trip was to go and meet some other friend of mine who was living in a different part of the country, who I actually didn't know personally. I never met this guy, but I have a lot of friends through connections on Facebook and internet, so we've been kind of chatting for a couple of years already online, and I knew this guy was serious into plant medicine, psychedelics. So I was like, oh yeah, we're actually gonna be around, let's drive and meet this guy, right? So we came with my cousin to meet this friend of mine who I knew from the internet, first time meeting him in person. And I said, you know, since you are the psychedelic guru, maybe you should do something. Maybe you should try some plant medicines. Was around the solstice, 2015, right? Wasn't really planned. And by the way, this is the first time I was actually doing psychedelics since I was very young, like proper psychedelics, you know. We're talking about mushrooms here. Actually was a synthetic psilocybin, basically. So this is the first time I actually done proper psychedelics as an adult, and that I was 33 when it happened, right? I didn't really try, you know, I tried all sorts of things, but never tried proper psychedelics since I was like 19 or 20. So, you know, that was a very different experience. Now, as a mature person, things were very different. Cutting long story short, we took the substance, went to some mountains, hills, with me, my cousin, this friend of mine, and his girlfriend. So this is the first time I experienced this state where I just felt like, you know, I woke up from a dream for a moment. My 33 years of my life from that level seemed like a couple of minutes, couple of hours maybe. It was such a powerful high state of consciousness. I was experiencing myself. It's very difficult to describe, but you know, multi-dimensional version of me with the same characteristics, you know, same kind of features, a little bit, eyes, things like that, but just 100 times more advanced version of me. And I was basically looking at myself, looking at reality on Earth from that level as a dream, you know, as something that happens in my mind. Where 1 hour passed or a couple of hours have passed and I got pulled out from this reality for a moment to see what's going on. I was in such a shock because at first, you know, it seemed very familiar. Like this level, this state was like almost like reminding myself that this is who I am. And it's like, you know, think about when you wake up from a dream, like, oh, that was just a dream, right? So this is kind of the feeling I had, that I just for a moment walked up from this life that I'm having here, and this is who I am, this is who I am. I'm just dreaming, I'm just having this reality here where I'm, you know, and it's only a few hours of the dream, which on Earth, because consciousness is compressed, seems like, you know, very long time, 33 years, right? But from the level of your higher self, it was just like a moment, you know, and life on Earth seemed like some black and white, murky kind of dream, you know, same way like when you compare your awake state to a dream level. Your awake state, obviously, the perception is much higher, like seeing in HD versus like some murky, hard to see reality. So now there was a level up, which was 100 times more powerful than this reality here. When I was experiencing that, I was in such a shock. I just couldn't believe what I saw. I was so confused. I was like speaking to my cousin and saying, who the fuck we are, who I am. Like, you know, I'm trying to understand reality for half of my life, and everything I was thinking about just got shattered instantly into pieces because I didn't know what's going on anymore. I was just like, I had all sorts of thoughts in my head. You know, maybe I'm just some like alien being who is like creating these games where you create, you know, playgrounds, reality simulation for yourself to test yourself a little bit. And that's kind of like what I got shown to remind myself. I wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't even know that this is the level of higher self. And from that moment, for the next 7 years, we're talking about it happened in 2015, you know, I try to understand this, how it works, what's going on, you know, how this level works comparison to this level here. And I had it a couple of times I saw this level already a few times during different sessions, and there was a lot of interesting things there. So for example, I still had my own form, right? It was, like I said, it was kind of similar characteristics, but just so much more advanced, right? So for example, when people sometimes talk about their experiences on DMT or 5-MeO DMT, where they merge with God or consciousness, right? When they become the part of the whole again, that's different, right? Because this is when you are merging with yourself, with collective consciousness for a moment to experience that, right? But here at this level, I still had form. I still was me. It's just like super 100 times more advanced version of me. Senses were very different, you know. I was kind of multi-dimensional, things like that, which is hard to explain what this feels like. And another interesting thing is that I was being guided. I was getting messages, you know, downloads from someone or something, which made me think that obviously this is not the level of God or collective consciousness, because there are other entities out there that are communicating something to me, or maybe an aspect, you know, higher self, some level of higher self. Maybe there is like still a duality at this level, I don't know. But basically what I was getting, and this already happened a couple of times during different sessions, was that one of the things was that the whole reality is just you, right? So your choices are impacting the version of timeline or reality that you are experiencing, right? One of the things that I got shown, which is really interesting, was that I'm not following my path. This was the message I was getting. And this is interesting why this whole event happened. So like I said, 2015, random trip. It's never random, but you know, coincidence, let's say. You know, I decided to take some psychedelics and I'm having this powerful experience. And at that time, I was kind of lost. I was working on this startup idea, which was like a social network, which was completely not aligned with my true mission, right? My true authentic path is to do what I'm doing now, teach people how these things work, be some kind of thinker, philosopher, spiritual teacher, activist. And I became a little bit lost. So I felt like, yeah, this is like niche thing, you know, no one's fucking believing in these things, no one listens to these things. Let me just focus on what the society tells me, which makes sense. Let's work on a startup to make loads of money, right? That's what kind of I had this thinking around that time. So I had, you know, I step outside for already, I don't remember how long, 1 year or more. I was not following my path. And I was focusing on something that was kind of forced. I was kind of working on the startup with this guy. We had a lot of arguments. Because everything was forced. I wasn't focusing on my true, authentic path. And what happens? By coincidence, I'm being taken into this situation where I'm being pulled out for a moment from this life. And I'm having this explanation of what's going on, that I'm not following my path, and reminder of who I am. So I was just in such a shock after this session that actually my cousin and these other friends, they were carrying me back home, like almost like a disabled person. I was just walking with them, crying, and I was just like, I didn't know what's going on anymore. And it's interesting because the way I got guided here is through this powerful experience, because I'm not kind of following my soul plan, right? I got lost, and let's pull him out, let's show him what's going on for a moment. We get a glimpse into what's going on, go back and now make changes. And this kind of situation, I've noticed it happened to many different people in different ways. So sometimes it happens on psychedelics, but very often I've seen that people have near-death experiences where you have a car accident, whatever. You get out from your body for a moment, you might be talk to your guides or higher self. Sometimes you don't see them, you communicate, you know, telepathically. and they tell you like, oh, you're not following your path, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I've seen people sharing such experiences over and over many times. I even know some people myself. So this is actually common thing, you know. Sometimes what happens is that when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing and you have some maybe more important path, you know, I'm talking about like some spiritual work that you're supposed to be doing, what might happen is that your higher self or your guides get you out for a moment to show you what's going on, to remind you who you are, what you're here to do, and you go back and hopefully start applying changes, you know, implementing what you just learned. So unfortunately, what often happens is that, you know, you have this powerful experience, you go back to your life, programs are manipulating you, and you know, you just keep forgetting. After a couple of months you forget about the experience and you're back to the same thing. And that's kind of what I was doing, you know. Initially my whole worldview was just scattered into pieces. I didn't know what's going on anymore, and I supposed to completely change direction of some of the things I'm doing. That was completely, you know, after a couple of months going back to the same old, I just kind of like started forgetting about it. I was still trying to understand it. So that's what was happening, right? Another thing is that every time I was at this level, afterwards memories were fading very fast. So I'm back and I only remember some kind of general things. I would remember like 5% of what happened. This is also really challenging because, you know, I knew that what I saw was the most important thing I ever experienced. It was just so real, and you cannot even, it was just like, yeah, this is what it is. This is who I am. I'm reminding myself that this is who I am, not here. I'm just projecting myself, having this dream. But this is the true me. But, you know, you come back here, memories are fading very quickly, and I only remember some bits. Like I remember, you know, seeing myself was very advanced. There was some messages about how I'm not following my path, blah, blah. But I completely lost the details, right? And then another time it happened, and over the last 7 years, I had it, I don't remember, maybe 3 times during different sessions that I would get back to the same level. I would again see reality from that level. Each time I was back in that state, I was reminding myself, this is what I saw. Yeah, I remember. I want to remember when I'm, you know, when they fade away, when psychedelics fade away, I want to remember. And then I had all these different naive ideas about how can I remember all the details of what I'm experiencing. So I try to record myself, you know, I'm having a session and I'm being bombarded with these powerful visions and experiences, and I thought I'm gonna record myself on my phone, and I don't even know how to use the phone at this level. You know, so this is like the problem. Every time I thought I want to remember and get this message out, so I remember all the details, there was a problem with that, right? But because I think, you know, this is also how these things are set up. You are supposed to have a free will here, an organic experience, right? So you shouldn't remember that you are someone else, that you are this high being that is just having an experience, because then you know what to do, right? And you should have a free choice here. So it might be that you're gonna get, if you're really lost, you might get like some glimpse, you know, okay, remind yourself for a moment what's going on and go and apply the changes, but that's it. You know, you shouldn't remember too much, because then you're like, there is an interference in your free will, basically. And by the way, these experiences happened a couple of times, and they were so powerful, so like this level is just so incredible that you just know this is a real deal. You just know it because it's just obvious, it's familiar, it's like, this is what it is. This, you know, this is the real level. And it's such a powerful experience that over the next couple of years I've been thinking about it so much, and I try to understand how the hell reality works. How can I be everything at that level, still being a person, still being some kind of entity, and how can I be here having this limited experience and still be the same, and everything is like my own reality, right? In a way, but it's also a reality of everyone else, because everyone else has higher self as well. So this is a hard thing to grasp, and I've been trying to understand it better and better over the years. And another really important thing that I was experiencing there, where I was getting this guidance as well from outside, was that everything is you, and you really need to work on changing yourself to change reality around you, right? Because it's all one entity, right? So basically what I was getting was that things in my life, like for example a relationship that is not working out, or some problems with someone in my family, right? I don't want to go into details here, but basically there was a person in my family who's very close to me who has been struggling with addictions for a very long time, right? So what I was getting in these sessions was that when I'm gonna change myself and I'm gonna become clean and pure in different aspects, you know, no addictions, the more I'm changing myself, the more these things gonna start working. They're gonna start changing, you know, relationships gonna start working. My family member is gonna get healed from his addiction issues, right? And I was getting these teachings, I was getting information that because everything is you, it's just one entity, right? And what you are experiencing is version of timeline or reality that's based on your actions, right? Whether it's Trump in power, or Musk trying to hook us into AI, into our brains, whatever it is going on these other levels, wars, these are all fractal reflections of what's happening on an individual level, because it's just one entity, right? So when you bring these people to your life, or they come to your life, they are showing you something about yourself. It's like a mirror. It's like when I'm pulling my hand towards me, I'm actually pulling my hand towards me, right? But these people, because everything is just one entity, you rearrange your own dream depending on your choices, depending on how you behave, what you do in your life, all these kind of things. And this is the message I was getting about you change yourself, try to be more balanced. These other things that are not working out, it's going to start working out. And it was a very difficult thing to grasp for me, and it took me a couple of years before I started really listening to this message, because I didn't fully get it. So this is the most interesting thing about it all, that once I started healing myself more and more, so I removed alcohol completely, you know, I had some like addiction to pornography, things like that. I stopped doing these things, and exactly as I was shown, these things started changing around me. You know, that family member started healing, relationships started working better. It was just like literally linked to my behavior. And you can think about it as, okay, how is that possible that you are affecting other people, right? They are separate people. No, everything is just one consciousness, one entity. And all these people are just units of that one aspect that tries to, see itself through different perspectives. So basically what happens is that when you are changing yourself, working on yourself, being more in balance, less selfish, remove bad habits, all these kind of things, then reality shifts around you, because you are rearranging your own dream. And this is one of the very important things that I was getting also, is that if I won't be working on myself, meaning like not be selfish, not have these addictions and other problems, if I won't be doing that, the version of reality that I'm gonna experience is gonna be some dark timeline. I was getting these warnings during these sessions. So when COVID came, I knew this is exactly what I was being warned about. Because very clear, there's gonna be some dark scenario. So the version of reality that we are experiencing together is actually linked to our internal behavior, because what you see over there is just a further fractal reflection of what happens on an individual level. Okay, so this is a big topic, complex thing. I just wanted to share with you some of my experiences, some of the most profound experiences of my life, and I had quite a lot of interesting ones, but this is definitely top 5, seeing reality from that level. And I have a lot of friends who are some of the top people in the world in the field of plant medicine, psychedelics, etc. And whenever I try to share some of these things, everyone seems to have different experiences. So I don't think anyone actually mentioned to me that they reached that level with psychedelics. So I'm very curious if you are watching this and you also experienced reality from the level of your higher self on psychedelics. I would be really interested to hear what was your experience like. So please let me know, share in the comments, and if this video resonates, please share it on social media. Check out patreon.com/TruthTheory to support our work so we can create more content such as this video. And I'm just curious to hear what are some of your thoughts about what I just shared with you. I hope I'm explaining these concepts clearly enough, because this is always a problem. When you're having some powerful experience that is way beyond language, beyond space and time, it's very difficult to try to summarize it in a few minute video with something so limiting like language. So I'm trying to do my best to explain these experiences using language, with analogies, things like that. But for me, this is very obvious. But when I'm trying to communicate this to other people, obviously everyone has a different way of understanding things, different perception. It gets distorted, the message gets distorted. So I hope what I shared kind of makes sense. And once again, thank you for checking another episode of True Spirituality. And until next time.